Alright guys, so we got big news today that I really wanted to talk about because I don't get to talk a lot about this particular thing a lot of. So I was really excited about the news. This just came out of nowhere and I was like, holy crap, I really want to do a video about this. So yes, for those who don't know, we are getting a Indiana Jones game. We are getting a straight up Indiana Jones video game, which I am really excited for. I love Indiana Jones. I love 3 of the 4 movies. I love the trilogy. That's right, trilogy. Nope, there was no other 4th movie with a stupid-ass plot and had Shia LaBeouf in it. No, sir. No, sir, there was no such thing. So, the people behind this game are the same people who've done the Wolfenstein games, and I think they've done a few others. I think they also helped with the Uncharted. I think they some of the game creators had a hand in Uncharted, from what I heard. But yeah, so Indiana Jones hasn't really had a lot of video games, which you would think it's free real estate, really. Like, you would think that out of all the movie franchises, like, there would be a ton of Indiana Jones games. Like, you would, honest to God, think that there was a ton of Indiana Jones type game. Well, there are type games, like, of course, like Uncharted and Tomb Raider, and all of them are been inspired by Indiana Jones. So the fact that we're having, like, a big Uncharted style, like, what it looks like is a cool Indiana Jones, like, Uncharted style of game, that's really cool. And I think it's long overdue. We have this type of game for Indiana Jones. It's also weird that we're getting it this late in ever. Because, yeah, Uncharted, people are going to be like, oh, it's like Uncharted or Tomb Raider. And I'm like, yes, you dumbass, because this is what Tomb Raider and Uncharted are trying to be. Fucking moron. I am already expecting those kind of comments already, like, oh, it's just like Uncharted, or it's just like on Tomb Raider. And I'm like, no shit, moron. Anyway. So they didn't really, from the teaser we had, it wasn't much. All we had was that classic hat and whip and on a desk, and that was about it. So I'm wondering of where they're going. The story could be anything. I'm really hoping, like, maybe they'll take some adaptation from the from the Dark Horse comics. For those who don't know, there was a whole stretch of Dark Horse comics that was done by Indiana Jones had been done by Dark Horse Comics. Really hard to find now, apparently. And I'm surprised, and I'm also waiting. I'm really waiting for Indiana Jones comics to be done by Marvel again, because there was a time where Indiana Jones did have a comic line at Marvel. So I'm wondering when they're going to do that. You already had Alien and Predator and Star Wars, just kind of waiting on it. So I guarantee you, like, when we get closer to the new movie, we'll probably see some Indiana Jones comics. Anyway, so what was I gonna say? So with the game, I'm wondering, like, where the storyline is gonna be. Like, is it gonna be like, because the 3 movies have a lot of, like, gaps you can work with. Like, is it gonna be set in between like any era? That's the thing. Like, out of the 3 of the 4 movies, and even in the 4th movie, like, even in between the 3rd and 4th movie, there's a lot of space you can have these adventures take place. And I'm wondering if they're going, like I said earlier, if they're going to take any inspiration from the comics, because they had Indiana Jones find the Spear of Destiny, or like other lost treasures throughout history. So there is a lot of stuff you could do with an Indiana Jones story. I am wondering about the gameplay. I'm wondering if it's going to be third person. I imagine there's going to be a lot of stealth. I imagine, much like in Uncharted, there's going to be a lot of stealth mechanics. So you can do, like, quick takedowns or whatever. I would also, since it is the people behind Wolfenstein, I do expect some shooters. And there were moments in the movies where, Indiana Jones would just take a gun and just start shooting away at it. So I have no doubt in my mind that we'll probably get, like, a mix of that. And I'm wondering how fantastical, how fantastical it's going to get. Like, I'm wondering, like, are we going to see, like, some wild shit from Ark of the Covenant? Are we going to see, because the sky's the limit. Like, there's only, like, but there has to be, like, a level to it, There has to be, like, my hair. Oh, I fucking hate this hair. There has to be, like, a level to the fantastic. You know what I'm saying? Like, there has to be, like you got to space it out. Like, obviously we all remember that scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's also, like, some stuff with the almost immortal Crusader in and of course the death scene in the Last Crusade, the Last Crusade, and of course Temple of Doom. There's always a level of, like, magic and mysticism to it, but it's never, like, straight up outright. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's always, like, a level of, like, almost realism to that level of fantastic. So hopefully this game, it can really balance it out. I would really hate it if we had to do, like, something overboard, like Indiana Jones has a boss fight with a T-Rex or some shit like that, because then you're just being Tomb Raider. And I know, yes, Tomb Raider did that too, but, like, Indiana Jones you don't need to do that with a boss. Like, I don't know if this game will have boss fights, but I don't need a goddamn T-Rex in my Indiana Jones game, alright? So yeah, I don't, but, like, if you're gonna have, like, a fist fight with, like, a 6-foot Nazi, then go ahead, sure, we can have that as a boss fight. And I'm really, like, the other things I'm curious about, like, how are we going to use the whip? Like, obviously to grab and swing onto something, or, use as an attack or defense. Are there going to be upgrades for that? What kind of guns are we going to use? Are we going to use pistols, machine guns? Are we going to be able to are we going to have vehicles? The whole point is, I don't know. Like, I don't know, and I'm kind of excited because, again, we've never really had an Indiana Jones game, and I don't even know what the gameplay is going to be like. The last time we've had an Indiana Jones game was the Lego games, and I think it's long past due we get one. And I think they said this game's coming out in 2023 or late 2022. So I'm wondering... So it's not far. In terms of video games, it's not going to be that far off. So that's good. So I think that is good. Now, here's another question I'm going to pose to everybody. Are we going to be getting Harrison Ford voicing Indy in this game? Are we going to have him voicing Indy? Or are we going to have somebody else? Are we going to have somebody else, like, trying to do a Harrison Ford impersonation? Or are we actually going to have Harrison Ford in the game doing the voice? I personally think we're probably going to get an impression, because I really doubt you're going to have Harrison Ford sit around that long doing takes for the game. I sincerely doubt you are going to have him, like, sit down and do all of that for hours on end. So I think we're just gonna get someone else to voice Indy if that's the case. So I think that's what's going to happen. Would it be cool to have have Harrison Ford voice Indiana Jones in a video game? Yeah, but I doubt that's going to happen. That's the big draw, is that I don't think we're going to have Harrison Ford sit in a booth doing all these voices for hours on end. And you may be saying, like, oh, but he's done it for movies before. And I'm like, yeah, but that's different, because you usually have, like, someone with them to bounce off of. With video games, it's a lot different. You usually have just you sitting in a booth recording these lines and someone telling you how to do the voice. That's really it. So I think we're not going to have... Would it be cool? Yeah, and I wouldn't put it past them to sync that. But I don't know if Bathsheba, the guys making the game, are going to have that kind of money. So... And you're like, oh, but Mortal Kombat got Sylvester Stallone and Peter Weller and Keith David and all these other actors to voice characters in Mortal Kombat and in Injustice. Yeah, because they know their budget. And I'm still shocked they got Stallone and Weller to voice RoboCop and Rambo. But anyway, so I still think it would be cool, but I don't think we're gonna have Ford voicing that character. Anyway, so you guys tell me in the comments below. What do you guys think of this upcoming Indiana Jones game? Are you guys excited? Are you guys not? And would you want Harrison Ford to voice some? And what kind of adventure would you want with this game? Like, what kind of adventure or game mechanics would you want to see in this game? Just comment below, let me know. And once again, I'm Mr. Multiverse, and I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.